Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Jupiter, sextile, or trine one's natal north node. Now, this transit could manifest in optimism, enthusiasm, exuberance, truth, veracity, joviality, and luck. This could be in harmony with one's future and destiny. Now, I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. It may be more of an optimistic period for you pursuing your future. You may feel at this time that you can truly attain what you're destined for, and there may even be prosperity in connection with that if you have the natal north node. Um, Say, like in my case, I have the natal north node in Pisces in the 11th house. It could be some kind of metaphysical aspiration or goal, which would include metaphysical, can include astrology. And it may be a time where you're understanding more about the truth, the veracity that's connected with what you feel destined to do. That this can truly be what you are, what your purpose actually is. And especially, I mean, if you're in that latter, that I should say that second half of life is what I should say. Like say age 35 and older, this is where you can become more cognizant of and understanding what your true mission would be and purpose and what you feel your future holds. The North Node is generally emphasized more in that second half of life, and doesn't mean you can't use the qualities like prior to age 35 or so, but it's generally the way it works out. It's more accentuated and emphasized at that time. And it's also, I mean, the North Node is connected, has a connection with the purpose. This is something where you're more, it's just more positive, just in general regarding that. This is a time when you have the transit of Jupiter making a good relationship by aspect to the North Node. Jupiter is the planet that is fortuitous. It's a planet of luck and fortune. The North Node, again, has a connection with the future, the destiny, the mission and the purpose, and where you feel your mission is at this point in time is really can be again very fortuitous for that. If you have the natal north node, say in Capricorn in your fourth house, it could simply be finding structure and discipline in your home life, being responsible. At this time, a lot of planning, even premeditation for the latter part of one's life. It could be having a business at home, as some examples. Now, this is also, and you may feel, this is the time where it can be where you're just happy or you're just very jovial about what you feel is preordained, what you feel you're meant to do at this point in time. The South Node is our comfort zone. It's where we can be complacent. It could also be, overdeveloped, redundant qualities and attributes, and it's what we're going away from. And the North Node is what we're supposed to be focusing on. The South Node is not something I would say you eradicate completely. You can incorporate a little bit of that in the North Node placement, but the North Node is what we're really supposed to be homing in on, especially in that second half of one's life. And it's also a time to, when you have this transit, it can be really very positive and fortunate for developing the positive attributes that are connected with the placement. If you're you have the natal north node, say it's in Virgo in the fifth house, it could be just being very analytical regarding sports, or even extrapolating sports data. Um, it could be time as well when you have this transit where it's also a time where, I mean, in-laws, Jupiter has a connection with in-laws, so in-laws could even be beneficial toward what your north node is, what your purpose is. If you have the natal north node in the ninth house, it could be benefiting you and giving you, could simply be giving you a lot of positive energy toward higher education. If you have, say, the natal north node in Aquarius in the ninth house as an example, it could be higher education courses associated with astronomy or computers or astrology, electronics, meteorology, aviation, as some examples. And this is a time as well where you're apt to be more exuberant and enthusiastic as far as what you're moving toward. This is all tied in, with one's future, and this is a time where I mean, the North Node, of course, is what we're moving toward. The South Node is what we're getting away from, at least to some degree. And the thing about this is when you have take the natal North Node in Pisces in the 11th house again, like in my example in my chart. A lot of that I stated before can be tied in with the metaphysical, which includes astrology, goals, and aspirations, but it could also be about sacrificing for friends, or even being involved in the metaphysical, which can include astrology groups, sacrificing for groups, and some other examples, being forgiving of friends, being showing compassionate energy toward them and altruism. Those are some other ways, like in my case, when I have this transit, is how I can benefit from it, and have being really something very positive come out of the connection with that North Node placement. Again, the North Node is what we're directed toward. And it can be where those things can be more prosperous at this time, where we're directed toward. Jupiter is associated with prosperity. It can be have an understanding that Jupiter, is a very benign planet. When you have this transit, making this aspect, it can be very positive and attaining, what you're actually moving toward and directed to. And this is a time when you could have be very optimistic, regarding those matters at this time. And could also be, other people that are connected with Jupiter, not just in-laws. It can be publishers, advertisers, people involved in sports, religious people, could be college professors. These people may may be very beneficial toward you in terms of your future at this time, and where you feel you're destined to. And the thing about this is the North Node is also connected with issues that one may have to address and confront. If you have the natal North Node in the first or sixth house, as an example, it could be physical health related issues. And this is a time where it could be very positive in that, and whether they're physical health issues, or whatever it might be. It's about really having, positivity and being optimistic, and really taking care of those issues. And even, as I stated before, as an example of having the North Node in your first or sixth house in your natal chart, it could be, if there was a health related issue that needed to be addressed and confronted, this could be a very positive time for that, and being able to perhaps get it taken care of with little delays or distractions in doing so. And it can also be a time when you have this transit as well. Keep in mind the North Node is also, it's associated with what you're learning and aspiring to be. And again, going back to my example with having the natal North Node in Pisces in my 11th house, it could simply be, in some instances, having, being compassionate and forgiving toward friends, or being or sacrificing, for groups, trying to overlook friends' transgressions, as some examples. It's a time where you're more apt to be, enthusiastic about what you're learning, and aspiring to be at this time. If the natal North Node is in Gemini in the 9th house, it could be developing, manifold, belief systems, and being flexible and open to different philosophies. Now, another way this transit can be expressed, it could be a time where you're very enthusiastic and exuberant, which is Jupiter, about pursuing your future, which is the North Node. If the North Node, say, is in, say it's in Aquarius in the 12th house, as an example, it could be expressing selflessness, and even doing things with tech labs, which could be connected with Aquarius, for the less fortunate, such as inner city, school children. It could be, which is the 12th house, is the less fortunate. Now, could also be getting to the truth, which is Jupiter. about issues that you need to address and confront, which is the North Node. Hold on a moment, people. Now, let's say, for example, if the uh, natal North Node is in the zodiac sign Cancer in the 6th house, it could be issues with the stomach or the chest, the ribs, which is connected with the zodiac sign Cancer, which would be a physical health, which is the 6th house issue. Now, another thing too, this could be a positive time to easily express humor, which is Jupiter, with what you're destined to do. If the for example, if the natal North Node in Capricorn, you have the natal North Node in Capricorn of the 4th house as an example. It could be a business which is Capricorn, which might be associated with food, which is the 4th house. It could also be a time where there can be prosperity, which is Jupiter, in what you're learning and aspiring to be, which is the North Node. Let's say, for example, going back to my example in my chart, if the natal North Node is in Pisces in the 11th house, it could be perhaps incorporating spirituality, which is Pisces, in astrology, which is the 11th house. And it's also a time, as well, when you have, you have this transit again, it can be, very, just generally very fortuitous, very prosperous for what you're trying to do in terms of your future and where you feel you're destined toward what you're learning and aspiring to be. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.